Somewhere in America tonight, an old cigar box sits buried in a garage. Inside it, mixed between rusty coins, fishing lures, and forgotten keepsakes, could be a tiny red crystal worth more than a luxury car, maybe even more than a house. Most people would walk past it without a second glance. Some would throw it away. And that mistake has already cost ordinary families thousands of dollars. Because hidden among the world's minerals is one stone so rare, so mysterious, and so unbelievably valuable that even lifelong collectors may never see one in person. Its name is Red Beryl, and for the people lucky enough to find it, everything can change overnight. At first glance, Red Beryl almost looks unreal. A deep crimson glow. Sometimes raspberry red. Sometimes a vivid scarlet that seems to burn from inside the crystal itself. Under light, the stone flashes with an intensity so rich that jewelers often compare it to rubies. But here's where the story becomes shocking. Red Beryl is not simply another pretty gemstone competing with rubies, garnets, or spinels. It is one of the rarest gemstones on Earth. Not rare in the way advertisements use the word. Truly rare. For every one Red Beryl crystal discovered, experts estimate there are hundreds of thousands of diamonds mined around the world. Some gemologists believe fine-quality Red Beryl is thousands of times rarer than diamonds. And unlike diamonds, which are mined across multiple continents in massive quantities, gem-quality Red Beryl comes from only a tiny handful of locations on Earth. And this is the part collectors never talk about. Some of the most valuable Red Beryl specimens were discovered by accident. A retired man in Utah once spent years collecting strange rocks from desert trails during weekend drives. Nothing fancy. Just rocks he thought looked unusual. He stored them in coffee cans and tackle boxes in his workshop. One afternoon, while cleaning out the room to make space for new shelves, his grandson noticed a small reddish crystal wrapped in tissue paper. It looked ordinary at first. Dark red. Rough edges. Dust covered. But when sunlight hit the crystal, something changed. The stone exploded with color. The family nearly tossed it into a junk pile. Instead, they brought it to a local mineral show. What happened next stunned everyone in the room. Dealers gathered around the table within minutes. One expert reportedly asked where the stone came from before he even touched it. Another quietly offered cash on the spot. By the end of the day, that forgotten crystal, hidden for decades in a dusty garage, was identified as natural Red Beryl. The value? Several $1,000s for a single rough specimen. And the truly extraordinary examples can sell for far more. What most people don't know is that Red Beryl has a history filled with geological impossibilities. The conditions required for it to form are so specific that scientists consider the gemstone an extreme rarity of nature. It forms when beryllium, manganese, heat, volcanic gas, and pressure combine under almost impossible circumstances deep within volcanic rock formations. One missing ingredient, and the stone never forms. That is why most collectors spend their entire lives searching without success. The most famous deposits were discovered in the remote mountains of Utah, where volcanic activity millions of years ago created the perfect environment for this crimson crystal to grow. Harsh desert landscapes. Ancient lava flows. Rugged terrain that hides one of the planet's most valuable mineral treasures beneath ordinary-looking rock. But here's where the mystery deepens. Many people have owned Red Beryl without realizing it. Because rough crystals often do not look like polished jewelry store gems. In natural form, Red Beryl can appear embedded in pale rock matrix, fractured, dusty, or oddly shaped. An inexperienced eye might mistake it for cheap garnet, colored quartz, or even glass. And that misunderstanding has led to devastating mistakes. Estate sales. Yard sales. Old inherited mineral collections. Forgotten lapidary boxes from the 1970s and 1980s. Across America, valuable stones continue changing hands for almost nothing because families do not recognize what they have inherited. Some red beryl crystals are so small that cutters lose most of the original stone during polishing. That alone increases the value dramatically. Large clean stones are incredibly uncommon. In fact, many gem-quality red beryl stones weigh less than 1 carat after cutting. Yet despite their small size, collectors compete fiercely to own them. Why? Because rarity drives obsession. And red beryl exists at the very top of that pyramid. A common red gemstone may sell for a few dollars. Better quality garnets might bring modest prices. But fine red beryl enters a completely different world. Prices can climb into thousands of dollars per carat. Exceptional stones with vivid color and strong clarity may command even more depending on origin, cut, and collector demand. Some high-grade specimens have been compared to museum-level treasures. And this is where things become emotional for many families. Imagine discovering that a stone sitting untouched for decades inside your father's workshop, or your grandfather's rock collection, could pay off debt, help fund retirement, or protect a family during difficult times. That possibility is exactly why rare mineral markets have exploded in recent years. People are searching attics, opening forgotten drawers, and rechecking inherited collections because hidden value is being uncovered every single year. But identifying genuine red beryl requires attention to detail. The color is one of the first clues. Authentic red beryl usually displays a rich raspberry red to crimson tone. Some stones show subtle purplish hints. Others glow with a fiery scarlet intensity. Unlike darker garnets, quality red beryl often appears brighter and more vivid under direct light. Clarity matters too. Many natural stones contain inclusions or tiny internal fractures, but highly transparent examples are incredibly valuable. If light passes cleanly through the crystal with strong brilliance, collectors immediately pay attention. Then there is the crystal structure itself. Natural red beryl commonly forms in hexagonal crystals. Rough specimens may appear elongated or column-like with sharp geometric edges. These formations fascinate mineral collectors because they reveal the stone's natural volcanic origins. And this is the part most beginners miss. Weight. Red beryl is usually found in very small sizes. Large stones are exceptionally rare. So when experts encounter a vivid red crystal with unusual transparency and noticeable heft for its size, alarms go off instantly. But here's where the story turns even more shocking. As demand increased, imitations flooded the market. Synthetic stones. Dyed materials. Cheap substitutes sold online to unsuspecting buyers. Some fake stones are marketed as red emerald, a nickname sometimes associated with red beryl, even though many of these products are not authentic at all. That is why professional verification matters. Real red beryl possesses unique chemical and optical characteristics that trained gemologists can identify. Serious collectors often request certification before spending large amounts of money because counterfeits have become increasingly sophisticated. And yet, despite the risks, the fascination keeps growing. Especially among wealthy collectors. Because owning red beryl is not only about beauty. It is about exclusivity. Status. The thrill of possessing something nature almost never creates. In elite mineral circles, rare stones become conversation pieces, investment assets, and symbols of prestige. Some collectors lock them in vaults. Others display them under museum lighting inside private collections few people ever see. And the finest examples? Those can trigger bidding wars. What makes this even more incredible is how unknown the gemstone remains to the general public. Millions of Americans recognize diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and emeralds. But mention red beryl, and most people have never heard the name before. That ignorance creates opportunity. Because overlooked markets often become the most explosive once attention grows. In recent years, rare gemstone collecting has surged as investors search for tangible assets. Coins. Precious metals. Rare minerals. Historical collectibles. Physical objects people can hold in uncertain economic times. And within that world, extreme rarity always attracts serious money. Red Beryl sits near the top of that category. But there is another reason this gemstone captivates collectors. Its beauty feels almost supernatural. Under certain lighting, fine red beryl seems to glow from within like embers in a fire. The color can appear electric, alive, intensely saturated in a way photographs rarely capture accurately. Even experienced jewelers become stunned when they encounter exceptional stones in person. And because most crystals are tiny, cutters face enormous pressure during the shaping process. One mistake can destroy massive value instantly. Every angle matters. Every fraction of weight matters. Every inclusion matters. That precision adds even more scarcity to finished gems. Many rough crystals never become jewelry at all because they are too fragile or heavily included. Instead, collectors preserve them exactly as nature formed them. Now imagine this. An old mineral collection inherited from a relative. Boxes labeled decades ago. Specimens gathered from mining trips across the American West. Most families assume these collections hold sentimental value only. But hidden inside could be something extraordinary. Because during earlier decades, some collectors acquired Red Beryl when prices were dramatically lower than today. At the time, many people underestimated just how rare the stone truly was. As knowledge spread and supply remained limited, values climbed sharply. And supply remains one of the biggest reasons experts watch this market closely. There are only limited known sources for gem-quality material. Mining operations are difficult, expensive, and highly restricted. Production remains tiny compared to mainstream gemstones. In some years, almost no significant new material reaches the market at all. That scarcity fuels urgency. Collectors understand a brutal truth about rare minerals: once supply disappears, prices can move very fast. And this is the part viewers need to hear carefully. Not every red stone is valuable. Common garnets are everywhere. Dyed quartz exists in abundance. Glass imitations flood flea markets and online auctions. Some sellers intentionally mislabel stones to create excitement. But genuine red beryl stands apart. The combination of vivid color, geological rarity, limited origin, and collector demand creates an entirely different category of value. So how can ordinary people protect themselves? First, never clean suspected stones aggressively with chemicals or harsh polishing. Improper handling can damage surfaces and reduce value. Second, keep original labels, boxes, or notes connected to old collections. Provenance matters. Information about where a specimen came from can significantly increase collector interest. Third, seek evaluation from reputable gemologists or mineral experts if you believe you may own something unusual. A proper examination can reveal details invisible to the untrained eye. And most importantly, do not assume small means worthless. That mistake has cost people fortunes. Some of the world's most valuable gemstones are tiny because nature rarely forms them in larger sizes. Red beryl is one of the greatest examples of that phenomenon. A crystal smaller than a coin could still command astonishing prices under the right conditions. And this is where emotion enters the story for many Americans. Across the country, families are inheriting boxes of rocks, minerals, jewelry, and collectibles from parents and grandparents who lived through entirely different eras. Old miners, hobbyists, travelers, amateur geologists. People who picked up unusual stones decades ago and forgot about them. Most heirs never investigate what those items might actually be worth. Until one discovery changes everything. That possibility keeps collectors awake at night. Because hidden wealth does not always look glamorous. Sometimes it looks dusty. Sometimes it looks ordinary. Sometimes it sits untouched in a drawer for 50 years. And then suddenly, an expert identifies it, and the entire story changes. What most people don't know is that some red beryl crystals are considered so rare that museums actively pursue them for educational and display purposes. The finest specimens represent geological miracles unlikely to be repeated anytime soon. They are physical evidence of Earth creating something extraordinarily uncommon under nearly impossible conditions. That gives the stone a deeper emotional power. It is not just valuable because people decided it should be valuable. It is valuable because nature itself almost never makes it. And in a world filled with mass production and endless duplication, true rarity becomes magnetic. Especially now. Collectors today are competing globally. Wealthy buyers from around the world monitor auctions, mineral shows, and private sales searching for elite specimens. Internet marketplaces have exposed rare minerals to entirely new audiences, increasing competition dramatically. That means prices can escalate quickly when high-quality stones appear. And here's the warning many experts quietly repeat. The easier rare minerals become to identify online, the harder they become to acquire cheaply. Decades ago, extraordinary stones slipped through estate sales unnoticed. Today, information travels instantly. More people recognize names like Red Beryl than ever before. That growing awareness changes the market. Which is exactly why experienced collectors constantly say the same thing. Check your old stones now, before someone else recognizes them first. Because once a rare specimen disappears into a private collection, it may never return to the market again. And this is where the story becomes hopeful. You do not need to be wealthy to discover something valuable. Many important mineral finds came from ordinary people. Hobby rockhounds. Families cleaning basements. Retirees sorting inherited belongings. Curious collectors exploring forgotten boxes in storage units and garages. The next remarkable discovery could happen anywhere. That possibility keeps the mystery alive. Maybe it rests inside an old jewelry case. Maybe it sits unrecognized among common rocks collected during a family road trip decades ago. Maybe someone watching right now already owns one, without realizing it. And if that thought sends a chill down your spine, you are not alone. Because the history of rare collectibles is filled with stories exactly like this. Fortunes missed. Treasures overlooked. Ordinary objects hiding extraordinary value. Red Beryl represents all of it. Mystery. Wealth. Rarity. Hope. A tiny crimson crystal capable of changing the future for the people lucky enough to recognize it before it is too late. And the market surrounding rare stones continues heating up. Collectors want harder to find material. Investors want tangible assets. Auction interest keeps growing. Elite specimens keep disappearing into private hands. Every year, the conversation around ultra-rare gemstones becomes louder. But supply remains painfully limited. That imbalance is exactly what drives extraordinary prices. So tonight, before you ignore that old box of stones in storage, before you toss aside inherited minerals that look ordinary, before you assume those dusty red crystals have no value, take another look. Because somewhere out there, someone is holding a fortune without knowing it. And the next rare stone story might begin inside your own home.